Hey.
Canadian wine lovers, Carl's Wine Club members, Mira Boucher, every one of you across the country, welcome. It's 5 o'clock Pacific. It's wine time. It's Wine Wednesday. It's Blasted Church week at Carl's Wine Club. So a fun one, a so interesting topic to talk about because there's so many things, so many great and fun things behind the labels at Blasted Church. So Mira, how are you doing today?
Great. Yeah, it was go day ever since what, 5 a.m. this morning?
In between that, when you went to bed at like 4 a.m. and I woke up at 5:30, so an overlap of 1 hour and a half. And my first phone call was at 5:15 with some people in London, UK. So yeah, no, it was a go day. Like you mentioned, I was pretty crazy, but hey, we're here. It's time to wind down. I have 4 wonderful wines of a glass of wine in front of you, and we have a special guest in the green room as well. So I can't wait to chat with the winemaker at Blasted Church in a few minutes time. But yeah, Evan Saunders is sitting in the green room, relaxing. I don't know. I'm going to ask him when he's live, but I don't know what's in his glass right now. But I know he has some red in his glass. So he's going to be relaxing with us, and we're going to talk Blasted Church from the Ska bench in a few minutes. But before that, let me talk to our friend in French just a little bit, because on a une belle gang d'amateurs de vins canadiens qui sont partout dans nos provinces francophones à travers le pays. Si on veut dire un beau bonjour à tout le monde, c'est mercredi, c'est le temps de relaxer, c'est le temps d'avoir un bon petit verre de vin en main et puis de laisser Mira et Carl vous entertainer pour la prochaine heure. On a un invité spécial de Blasted Church Winery, qui est le winemaker qui est présentement en train de nous attendre. Donc, on va parler de vin de l'Okanagan, mais aussi on va parler de qu'est-ce qui va se passer dans les prochaines semaines avec Carl's Wine Club, qu'est-ce qui s'est passé la semaine dernière dans le monde du vin, quelle sorte de folie qu'on a faite en fin de semaine, because we always do some crazy stuff over the weekend, cracking some pretty crazy wine. So, on va vous parler de tout ça, là, qu'est-ce qui se passe, c'est quoi dans 2 semaines. Merci de vous joindre à nous. C'est toujours le fun de vous jaser en français. On a toute notre gang de la belle ville de Québec, Jean-Denis, Pierre, puis tout notre bon monde. On vous souhaite bonjour. Tous les amateurs de vin francophones sur Instagram, présentement, qui nous écoutent, un beau bonjour également. So, there you go. It is what it is, right? A little bit of Instagram, a little bit of YouTube, a little bit of Facebook, a little bit everywhere. And now, like, the show is rolling. It's awesome. Awesome. I'm thrilled. I'm pumped. I have 4 wines in front of me, just like you. And it's time to relax now.
Whew. It really is. It really is.
It is.
Just relax, you guys. I mean, wine is just a great thing to chat about. Even you don't even have to drink the wine. We can just chat about it. There's just so many amazing things to learn. And I'm excited because Evan Saunders has, I think, been with Blasted Church for quite a while. He was in a bunch of places internationally, possibly from Ontario. So we'll find that.
We'll find that out. I mean, you're the best researchist on the whole freaking planet. So
I have not been researching too much. So we'll find out. But what I do want to say is, like, I mean, some amazing wines this week that are very hard to find in the Okanagan. And they're at a great price point, like a Cab Sauv at $36. That's almost unheard of nowadays. There's a Grenache-Syrah-Mourvedre, which I loved. Is it one of these glasses?
Unfortunately, you drained the bottle before Wednesday, so there was nothing left for the live show. There was just a little left for the picture that I took on Monday that I had to sacrifice the last sip to take a picture because the color of the GSM is slightly lighter, so I couldn't just pour a little bit of Merlot in the glass and took it beside the bottle. Like, I mean, I would look like a fool, right? Even if it's only me, noticing it, I will like, I can deal with that, right? So that's your favorite wine. I knew, I had a feeling when we did the whole selection that this one will come up on top with you. And you know what? We'll have to talk about also the blind tasting that we did together.
Yes.
So
because
that
I
was
really rated the Merlot very high on that one.
You sure did, but the second behind was the GSM. So I knew from that. So you were not tasting the label, you were tasting the wines because. So we're starting to do a little something new now. We blind taste each other with the scores after I do all the tasting notes just to validate what we're doing. So yeah. I mean, just before I bring Evan in, I just want to say these are so high. There's so many wines to choose from Blasted Church. They have an extremely deep portfolio, so extensive with so many things to pick and choose. So the challenge was to pick the right wines. That what I realized more I was tasting through their portfolio, more everything is good. Like, I mean, I had like sometimes when you taste through an extensive lineup portfolio from a winery, you come across someone, you're like, okay, no, this one, discard. But geez, it was one of the toughest exercise of selection that we done last week because they were all good. So I'm so happy with the consistency and the flavor profile of what Blasted Church. They all fairly highly rated. And come on, a $24 red blend Merlot Syrah. We don't see that quite often anymore. So I can't wait to pick Evan's brain and see how the heck does he come up with that. But yeah, Blasted Church, solid lineup. If you're starting to listen here, it's Blasted Church week at Carl's Wine Club. We have 9 wines because I couldn't select less than that. I just wanted more and more. And I know I could hear Mira, and it's like, stop it! We're gonna run out of space on the flyers. So yeah.
Well, I'm gonna get the pictures that we took at the winery, but like it's fun because they all have very distinct and fun labels. And I think maybe that's part of why, like, we didn't even try Blasted Church for quite a while because we were like, oh, it's more of a fun wine, or I don't know. But then we tasted them. We're like, these are fun labels, but very serious wines. I mean, they're great wine.
Absolutely. No, that's what that was great to refresh my memory, to refresh my understanding of the portfolio at Blasted Church. I'm so glad that we're working with them this week. And yeah, how about we bring the Blasted Church.
Evan Saunders in. Evan, how are you doing? Happy Wine Wednesday.
I'm doing well. It's what an introduction. Thank you. That's exciting. I'm excited now anyways.
That's great. What's in your glass?
It is what was supposed to be a GSM, but because of labeling requirements, is actually an MSG.
MSG.
Yeah, you had to put the more predominant grape first. Is that it?
Yeah, and difference of 0.1% here and there was you don't mess with the VQA, so that is it's an MSG.
MSG. I know, but you know what? I have no requirement on my social media. So when I talk about the wine, I talk about the GSM because you know what? I'm wondering if our members will say, "Oh, what are you turning into a Chinese restaurant now? It is MSG and all of that stuff." So now I didn't want any confusion. So this is the GSM. That's what's in your glass tonight, and we're going to talk about that wine because it was Mira's favorite. It's a very intriguing wine, and I want to know how you guys fare with all of these rare grape varietals, some stuff that we're not used to see from the Okanagan. So really, really exciting. Welcome, Evans. It's great to have you with us. I want to start with one thing. I want to know, and our members wants to know a little bit more about your background. Where are you from? Where did you study? And for me, where did you go before? Like, I know most of you guys do some internship overseas in the old world, but I saw Costa Brown in your biography, and I'm always intrigued because Costa Brown is one of my favorite down in California. So
yeah, so it's So background, grew up in Manitoba, so not a little too far east in Ontario, but a little farming town in Manitoba called Carmen, Manitoba. Just 2,500 people. Growing up, wine certainly wasn't a real big part of day-to-day life, as you would imagine, growing up where I grew up. And then always kind of had the idea that I'd probably go to school for sciences, maybe go into medicine, something like that. So I went to school, University of Victoria, with the thought of transitioning into medicine, but got into some higher level calculus things, and I realized that probably that wasn't going to be the path forward for me. Still love microbiology, biochemistry, which is what I graduated with. Coming out of university, while I was there, I'd always liked food growing up. That was always something I was interested in, but didn't really know what to do at university. You meet some other people, and wine kind of became a little bit more of a thing for me, especially well paired wine with a delicious meal. All of a sudden, kind of the light bulbs start to turn on. So did some research and realized that you can go to school for winemaking, and you can make an actual career out of it. So off to Ontario for a little bit more school at Brock University, and then always with the idea that I was coming back west. I didn't really entertain the idea of staying in Ontario for that. I had my then girlfriend, now wife, was still in Victoria. That's where she grew up. So there was the Okanagan was kind of that happy meeting point in the middle, and out here. So I got my first harvest job at Soyeuse-Larose back in 2011, which
not a bad spot to start your career. That's for sure.
It was good. Yeah, I worked under Pascal there for the first, I guess, 3 vintages there. And it was great. It was kind of get to learn the ropes with someone who really they're really shooting for it. They were the first ones to kind of come in and set the price at where they set that price at early on, that $45 bottle of wine, and really pushing for it. And that was that was exciting. It was an exciting way to kind of get your feet wet in the industry. I'd never worked a vintage, and quite literally getting your feet wet.
2011, right?
Yes, yeah, those and the harvest days and the harvest nights and everything. It was just something that I loved. I enjoyed the incredibly long hours and the late nights and the team and the camaraderie and all of that. So as soon as after that first harvest, I was kind of hooked. So I did I guess 3.5-4 years at Soyeuse-Larose. In there, I did as you had mentioned, I did a stop down in California for 4 or 5 months at Costa Brown. That was another one. I think that was probably the experience that, again, going super premium, but they're even, they're on a whole different echelon. They had just gotten
absolutely.
It was, but it was fun. They were, it was just a bunch of 30-something-year-old guys and girls were just having a good time. Again, the crazy hours and the
real California dream. The real California dream.
Yes, that's it. It was amazing. And then came back to Soyeuse-Larose for a bit, and then to Blasted Church, where I'm coming up on 10 years.
Wow! So you grew up the ladder pretty quick at Blasted Church. You have held pretty much every position, like from cellar hand all the way to assistant winemaker, and you took the reign in 2017 or something like that.
That's right. Yep, 2017.
So now, the portfolio, like the inside out, the whole thing at Blasted Church. So how did the vineyard holding grew since you're there? Like, I mean, like you started, did they start very big with a lot of vineyards across the Okanagan, or they added pieces over the time?
So when I first got there, we had actually wider holdings. So our estate vineyard that were 40 acres on the Skaha bench, and then we were buying from probably about another 60 acres down south, all kind of clustered around a Soyeuse. Some maybe just in between Oliver and a Soyeuse. Since then, we've kind of let go some blocks that maybe weren't where we wanted them to be, and that kind of routinely weren't giving us what we were looking for. So we, you kind of try to focus on the sites that are bringing the quality that allow us to do the things that we want to do in the cellar. So since then, we're now probably around 40 acres of purchased grapes, 40 acres planted. So we've come down a little bit in production, but the diversity of the varietal spread certainly is probably we're getting it back down a little bit now. Certainly, some of the winters that we've had lately are part of that reason as well. There's a period of time there. I think we're up around probably 24, 25 different grape varieties that we were working with over the course of a harvest. It's fun. I can't, if you're given an opportunity to work with something different, how do you say no?
I mean, this is all winemakers, right? All winemakers are like that. Like, give me more, give me more. When it's time to look at the space and the ergonomy of how you're working, and the accountant starting to sense, it's like, whoa, that's enough, you guys.
That's exactly right. The accountant first, yeah, they look at you and they shake your head every time you say you want to do a new wine, and it's always this time of year. It's in that March, April, May, where you get an opportunity for something. You've forgotten how ragged you ran yourself last harvest, and all you think about is the excitement of something new. So then all of a sudden, mid-October, November starts rolling around, and you haven't had a day off in 80 or 90 days, and you just can't imagine why you would have done this to yourself again. And then, the next year you do it again.
I know, eh? Hey, so let's talk about the grapes that you're working with. I know there's a staple, right? I mean, there's a Merlot, there's a Cab Sauv, there's a straight Syrah, but you work with some pretty unique grape varietals. So I know that our members always like that chat when we're talking about the unique stuff. Let's start. Okay, you got the Mourvedre, Grenache, and Syrah. That it's you're one of the only one to, especially with Mourvedre. I mean, there's a few work with Grenache, but Mourvedre, there's not a lot. Like the 2, 3 in the Okanagan, there's very little producer. You work with Nebbiolo. Again, very little use of Nebbiolo. You work with Teroldego. Okay, now, which one caused you the most headache, or which one that you will look at and you say, you bastard, I cannot figure you out, or something like that?
That's for me. It's actually one of the wines that you have in the offering, and I think it's not not the one you would think I would go with. It's Viognier. Viognier is
right here in my glass.
I knew it as soon as I saw that glass. I knew it. It is. It's one of the hardest grapes to work with. It'll play chicken with you every single year. It's just a blinking contest year. So it is for me 100%. It's a red grape in white grapes, just in a white grape skin. It's crazy. It's unripe Viognier is the most bitter, the most tannic, the most unapproachable grape. You're out there, you're sampling, and it hurts your mouth. How so you expect, you walk through a block of Petit Verdot or Nebbiolo or something like that would have, those mouth ripping tannins, but it's actually Viognier that's even worse. And you're waiting all the while, you're going through your tasting grapes, because numbers tell you so much, but the final pick call is made on taste. So you're going through your tasting grapes, and finally you're watching sugars run, you're watching acid plummet, and finally you start to taste apricot. And you get that stone fruit in the grape, actually, and then you got to go. Like you got to pick within 24, 48 hours, because at that point the sugars are running so fast. So for me, I always, winemaking perspective wise, we try to not have to do too much in the cellar. So we have tools available to us. We can add acid. We can do whatever we need to do. But ideally, for me, I don't want to have to do that. So we're trying to just walk that incredibly tight line where it's just right. There's enough acid there in the grape that we don't have to do any fixing and any changing in the cellar, but you're ripe enough where you have that stone fruit profile. It's not just tannic and just crazy aggressive. And you also have that oiliness and that viscosity. It's It is.
And you want to find the balance. You don't want it too waxy.
Yes.
You want it, yeah. You want to preserve that texture, but not overdo it. And like, it is nothing worse than the Viognier with like, and so often you get like the lack of acidity in the Viognier, and I'm like, damn it. Like, and this one, that's what strikes me right away. The stone fruit popping out, like absolutely exploding. You got that nice texture. But why did it makes it to the 90 points to me is because the acid lifted, like keeps everything lifted, keep everything together. And that's what I'm looking for in the Viognier.
It is, and every year you you play that same game. You're waiting for it to budge. You're waiting for it to budge, and you've had a couple of years in a row where it just stops. So you're out sampling, you're walking through, you get your sample, you take it back to the winery, you check all the numbers 1 week. All right, it's getting close. We're 10 days out, and you go out 7 days later to check it again, just as we got to be there. We got to be really close. We got to be really close. And you find that it hasn't moved. It's in the exact same spot as it was 7 days ago. Your nerve, like it's at that point. Your Viognier typically comes in. You're starting all the other whites are essentially in. You're starting that transition. You're looking at some early ripening pockets of Merlot, Pinot Noir might be in, stuff like that. So you're kind of in that crossover period where you want to be able to just transition over onto the red side of things and just really kind of shift your mindset once again. But the Viognier doesn't care. It's doing its own thing at its own pace, and you can.
It's the boss. He's the boss.
That's his. Mother Nature is undefeated, and Viognier is right there with her.
I like it. I mean, you did a great job, and I know because often winemaker will always I often have that Viognier chat with people like, this one's a bitch, man. And you did a great job. I love it. I like the fruitiness. There's a little bit of floral, but the bright acid. So well done with that. I really enjoyed it. And you know what? God bless Crew Cap. Because, I mean, we're a weekend and this VO tonight, okay? It's been a week that, like, I have that bottle and, like, once in a while, every couple of days, I pour a little bit more. And tonight is just absolutely shining. Like, shining after a week open. So, God bless Crew Cap. Absolutely. Okay. I'm a Chardonnay fanatic, okay? Like, after my wife and my kids, it's Chardonnay, okay? That's how things are lined up in my life. So swear to God, I mean, you spent some time at Costa Brown, so you must know a bit about Chardonnay. So tell me a little bit more about Swear to God and what was the philosophy behind it with a vintage, the 2022. So it started so slow, right? Like I mean, like almost in mid-June, and you're just putting your hair out, saying what's going to happen. So tell me a little bit more about Swear to God Chardonnay.
Yeah, so that was for me. And Chardonnay especially. So it is Costa Brown. As on the Bordeaux red side of things, it's always the rose. Certainly informs all of my decision making still to this day. You take your spin on it, and Chardonnay again, kind of back to how I learned to work with it down there. So it's as far as the winemaking side of things, it's simple, whole cluster press, cold settled in tank. Clean juice and a little bit of the light lees off the barrel for fermentation and aging on lees. And it's really just it's a simple process. The biggest part for the Swear to God is that we have a beautiful block of Chardonnay on our property. We have, by Okanagan standards, a fairly old vineyard, so it's up to 25, 30 years old for a lot of the vineyards. So it's, really well-established vines. 2022 was a tricky year. We had a lot of, mildew pressure and all sorts of those types of things going throughout the entire Okanagan. So sorting table, and you have to be absolutely, as hard as it is, you have to be just relentless on the sorting table. You have to make sure you're only the best clusters get through. Otherwise, you're never going to end up with as pure of a wine or as nice of a wine as you would have otherwise. And for us, we're once again trying not to have to do too much in the cellar. So it's kind of, first and foremost, just great grape selection and great growing practices, and start with clean fruit. And the winemaking side of things, just keep it simple, nice, a great oak program. And our job is just not to mess it up on the way to bottle.
Mira, keep the picture there. So, if where's the block of Chardonnay, like relative at the picture that we're seeing here?
So if you look straight behind you, so the opposite direction, so it's up on a steep slope, kind of overlooking.
Oh, it's okay. It's by the road.
Yeah,
the block of Chardonnay is closer to the road.
Yeah, the top side of the road. It's kind of pressed up close against. So there's a creek that runs down to the south side of our property. It's just great big tall pine trees not too far away. So you get a little bit of what is a hotter area. You get kind of the cooling effect. You get sun doesn't hit it until later and things like that. And later in the season, the sun's blocked behind the trees earlier. So it has that kind of nice aspect of that steep slope. So you get a really, fast draining soils, rocky, gravelly, steep slope, all that. So you get kind of tiny little clusters, really, really concentrated berries, concentrated fruit. So as long as kind of everything has gone appropriately and we do what we're there to do in the cellar, it shouldn't be a hard wine to make.
Well, I mean, and when we talk about like sometimes with Blasted Church, you look at Hatfield Fuse or the Big Bang Theory, like there's a bigger production of wine. I mean, if people generalize and think that Blasted Church is a big producer, I mean, when you look at Swear to God, it's 144 cases. So if you do the math, and we're talking about 6 barrels, basically, of that precious Chardonnay juice. I mean, very, very tiny, small quantity. I just love that wine. 91 points, Carl's Wine Club. I loved it. Do you use a little bit of native? Do you go native yeast, or you don't take that risk? You're commercial. You have your own yeast that you use regularly for the same Chardonnay or something like that. What's your philosophy on that?
I inoculate most wines, almost all wines in our cellar, and then ones that aren't inoculated, odds are they're getting some spillover from wines that are anyways. Just kind of the resident population would be of commercial strains. So I like the selection of the yeast. I have it's a yeast isolated from Burgundy. I know the consistency, vintage in, vintage out, and it's kind of one of those things of you went to the screw cap mention where you have that consistency. You have kind of the control of the direction. One thing with the Chardonnay is, so I'll inoculate for primary fermentation, but for malolactic, generally we don't inoculate for it, but we also don't block it for quite a while. We'll keep the barrels taut, but we won't add sulfur for months after fermentation is finished. So you get a little bit of that spontaneous malolactic fermentation going on, just to kind of soften it out. And then basically we're tasting the wine as it's progressing through. And when we feel like the blend is there, I'm hopefully a hallmark of our white wine program in particular is a nice strong acid backbone. I always want that kind of that freshness and that vitality through the wine. So we don't let mallow we never let it go to completion generally. But maybe, a couple of barrels that we let go all the way through and the rest that we don't. So we're always trying to find that balance between that richness and that nice mouthfeel that malolactic can bring to a Chardonnay, but also wanting that kind of acid,
the purity of fruits, right? The purity. Mm-hmm. That's why I mentioned in my tasting. There's a balance between that creaminess, but the purity of fruits. You feel the barrel, but it doesn't take over the whole profile. So well done. I really quite enjoy that Chardonnay. So done. I love it. Because this is a Scaha bench VQA for this one. So we were on the sub GI here. Tell me a little bit more about where you guys at. I want to know more about the home vineyard, Scaha bench. What makes that sub appellation fairly new? I mean, it's not as older as the Golden Miles. Obviously, it's not as new as the new Summerland now, like a three-party, how they split it like a year ago. But what makes the Scaha bench sub GI special to your opinion?
So for me, it's all in the name. It's one of those ones that actually speaks exactly to it. So one of the biggest effects for us, Scaha Lake. It's a relatively shallow body of water, so it warms up fairly quickly in the spring. Then through the summer, it moderates temperature a little bit for us. So our daytime temperatures aren't quite as high. And through the winter months, as long as the lake isn't frozen, it helps to give us a little bit of a an increase in temperature as well. So can sometimes, not that because last winter will be an exception to that rule, but we can skirt some of the cold damage that some other regions might see. And then on the bench side of things, so we're 100, 150, 200 feet up above lake level at the very, very top of our property. And then the soil being we're kind of a clay loam with like gravel kind of intermixed, some pockets of absolute pure sand, just like beach sand, where the majority of that Viognier is actually grown. So kind of interesting soil profile. So we have that similar elevation to say like the Naramata bench, but we're so incredibly different from them, being that they're on Lake Okanagan, so much bigger lake, a lot cooler, so more of a moderating influence, whereas we have Skaha that's warms up faster, kind of keeps things a little bit different. Naramata maybe a little more on the loamy, the fun geology now.
I like to geek. You got the right guy.
We're more of a sandy loam, so we're a very like a fast draining soil, especially through those pure sand pockets and with the gravel. So it's a cool site. It's or not cool as in cold, but it's a really interesting site. Kind of vintage in, vintage out. It produces some great fruit. Our Merlot is always one of my favorite wines that we work with. It's a variety that's just well suited to where we are in the valley, the soils that we have, everything else.
Yeah, no, totally. And I noticed the Merlot has a little orangey in the color. Even it's a brand new release. Merlot was one of the wine who stood out to me as well. I mean, we're talking, I've never visto a gold medal, but like a gold or medal or silver, like it wins gold almost every year somewhere. So Merlot is a consistent winner on your portfolio, and is at that price. I mean, we're seeing the price like climbing up every year. Like the BC wines are getting a little bit more expensive. When I see a Merlot of that quality at $34, that really get my attention. And this one absolutely delivers. So well done on the Merlot. I would like to bring the attention on the Grenache-Syrah, on the Mourvedre Syrah Grenache, a little bit, that holy trinity of grapes. And let's talk about it a little bit, because how many acres is it from the estate? It's not from the estate vineyard first and foremost, or no? Okay, nope. So from Oliver, from Osoyoos, I believe.
Yeah. So the Syrah is from a vineyard, a really kind of a cool, like pressed right up against the mountain between Oliver and Osoyoos. That actually, after the 2022 and 2023 cold event, got ripped out, that Syrah block last spring, and planted to Merlot because it suffered quite miserably through the winter. Then the Mourvedre and Grenache are just north of the town of Osoyoos, kind of overlooking the lake. They're kind of a nice in that it's east facing, but it's an east facing slope, so you do get that kind of earlier shading impact. So you can hang the fruit a little bit longer, getting that full physiological ripeness without having big spikes in sugar and alcohol, and you kind of maintain that acidity a little bit. So for that wine, we were looking at it. We had the G&M portion and obviously the S portion, and just decided to go for it when you're going to have the opportunity. So we actually co-fermented that, brought all the fruit in the winery, all destemmed into tank together. It's always it's a nice technique. I just feel like the wine comes together differently when it's all fermented together. I regret not having a little bit of Viognier around still, but that was what the vintage gave us, and you can't really dictate those things. But it was kind of one of those wines that was kind of the darling of the vintage in the cellar. Everyone loved it. We picked it a little bit earlier just to maintain a little that lightness, kind of that freshness, keep a little bit of that natural acidity. We fermented it a little bit cooler. We didn't keep it on skin, maybe 20, 21 days on skins, all neutral oak, majority puncheons, so big 500-liter barrels, just to try to preserve that lightness and that freshness while still having that gamey character that of course, Syrah brings, but Mourvedre brings in a really big way as well. And that Grenache, that great purity of fruit. It was a very fun wine to make. It was a wine I haven't had the opportunity to make since. And I think going forward, probably after the winter that we have had, probably even fewer chances to make in the next 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, no, that's the sad part. But I just want to expand a little bit on that one because I think it's fascinating. When I taste it, to me, there's two key regions around the world, and it's when you look at Australia, in the south of Australia, they made that GSM very popular in the 90s, but also the home of Grenache in the south of France. I mean, the Côte du Rhône is where, and to me, there's a little bit more French thought in that specific vintage, a little lighter. There's that kind of floral note. The gaminess is right there. It's not muscular. It's not bold. It's all in elegance. Bright acid and that little floral component just bring that elegance and finesse in there. So I know that was my assessment. What is it? Is what I should have expected?
That's what we were shooting for, pretty much spot on. So didn't want that. And there's different wines, different styles for everybody. And for me personally, I like that lighter. I like that fresh. So I wanted to try to achieve that. So we went with that earlier picking decision and, working the wine a little bit lighter on maceration and pump over regime and all that sort of stuff. And the all neutral oak, trying to, that's, what I'm drawn to drinking more and more are a lot of those lighter reds. So whether that's France, Spain, Portugal, South Africa, wherever, those are generally the wines that I am more drawn to as I get further and further along this wine journey. That being said, I still a big blockbuster cab. I'm always going to say yes.
That's the other one that I have here. I mean, there's 2 more wines that I want to talk about. I know you're probably very busy. I don't want to take too much of your time, but God, I can do that for hours. So if you don't stop me at some point, you'll start to say, Carl, it's my time to go to bed. So, hey, listen, Cab Sauv, I was impressed. It's the first wine on the lineup that really, really, really got my attention. I'm like, whoa, okay, this is really Cab. This is textbook South Okanagan Cab Sauv here. And it really, really gets my attention. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. And for $36, this is A++ value wine here. So where the grapes are from, and what was your approach when you brought the fruit in the cellar for the winemaking?
So and once again, anytime with the Bordeaux Reds, that's my comfort level. That's what my early years in the wine industry. So Cab Sauv is one near and dear. Walking to a Cab Sauv block around harvest or just leading up to harvest, especially the timing. So it's generally one of the last, if not the last, grapes to roll in. So already I'm tired, but I'm breathing a sigh of relief. We're getting close to it, and it has these really open canopy, kind of dappled sunlight through the canopy. It just has, it's just a feel about it that just hits me right. It's one of my favorite grapes to work with. So the fruit for that wine comes from a vineyard down in Osoyoos, just kind of off on the west side of Osoyoos, clone 169 and clone 191 of Cab Sauv. So again, we harvest them together, but ferment them separately and treat them a little bit differently, kind of playing to the natural tendencies of each part of that block. We did blend a little bit of Petit Verdot into that wine as well, just kind of I think 6% or right around there. Just that it's a really natural pairing. Petit Verdot works so well with Cab Sauv, and a little bit of Cab Sauv from our estate on the Skaha bench as well. And in the cellar, it kind of plays into a lot of how we like to work in the cellar. So I like, patience is king in winemaking often. So, you've got to be patient on pick dates. You can't rush it. You can't pick it too early. It's basically when either the first frost has come, then it's time to pick, or, the first snow is imminent, then also it's time to pick. So you have to kind of be willing to put in the time, let it hang in the vineyard, especially that late in the season. You're not getting sugar accumulation anymore, so your alcohol, that kind of thing was set weeks before harvest.
But 2021 was a very unique growing season, as you know, man. Yeah. Like late June, we got 40 degrees for 10 days. So I mean, that's the famous heat dome that we got in 2021. It changed the whole dynamic of like the how they grow the grape. Usually, I mean, everything was like what was the effect? Like, I mean, like just for our listener, because I mean, this was completely new for all of you guys. And like, we never had that heat dome that early in the season. So
it was it was intense. I remember I was down in that block of Cab Sauv in Osoyoos on what turned out to be the hottest day of the year for them down there. And I pulled up at the block, and the truck was reading 49 Celsius. And we're early in the season. First of all, I didn't get out. Absolutely not. It's the effect. It decreased yield so much, so the vines went into
dormancy.
They're just trying to just survive. They're looking at this like we are. The end is coming, so they didn't kind of allocate resources as they might have otherwise. So it was really one where yields came down, berry size was incredibly low. So it's every vintage you kind of have to look at everything that's going on around you, because we're in a cool climate, an extreme climate. So the stamp of the vintage on every wine is substantial. So you need to kind of look at the entire picture of what's going on. So you see the heat dome, lower yields, skin to juice ratio is incredibly like 1-to-1. There's almost no juice in a lot of these berries. So just skins and seeds. So your risk of over extraction was incredibly high. Funnily enough, acidity did hold on pretty well in 2021. I think the vines didn't even know what was going on. So the ripening profiles were kind of bizarre. And especially in that struggle, you had some vines and even individual clusters on the same shoot or different parts of the same cluster. You would taste the grape on one side of it, and it would be ripe and ready, and you taste the grape on the other side of the exact same cluster, and it'd be 2 weeks away. So it was
crazy.
It was certainly we all earned it that year.
Absolutely.
Look at it all and try to come up with a plan for how you're going to adapt, and that's the big part of what we do is trying to tell the story of every vineyard block through every wine. We're trying to tell that story of the vintage. So you try to adapt how you're working in the cellar to make sure that that purity still comes through, and you express it. Certainly that vintage stamp is still going to be there, but you can kind of tell that story of the vintage.
Yeah, and I mean, like, my assessment into that, because I've seen so many wine from 2021, the alcohol level is off whack, and like there's often something sideways in the wine from 2021. I was impressed. 14% on the dot of the alcohol level, and I will be curious to see your book, but I don't feel it's more. It's not a hot Cab Sauv. There's a freshness in there. It's in my tasting notes. I mean, there's a freshness, there's a balanced alcohol level, and there's a nice fruit definition. And a week later, this is the one who shows the best in the whole lineup right now. There's a long spice developing. It's not an overpowering Cab Sauv, but there's enough body into it. So perfect balance. I'm really impressed with that wine.
Yeah, I think it's a Cab Sauv. Alcohol on a pure varietal Cab Sauv it ripens a little bit slower. So oftentimes your sugars aren't running nearly as fast, and it's especially when it's getting into the prime ripening weeks. As I said, you have the temperatures aren't getting high enough that you're getting sugar accumulation, but you're still getting that phenolic ripening, and you're still getting that evolution of the tannin, which is the big thing with Cab Sauv. We've all had those kind of harsh, astringent cabs, green cabs. So it is just, for me, it's just that patience thing, and just kind of letting it hang as long as you possibly can. It's certainly a wine that also rewards a little bit of a lower yield, and it's one of my favorite varieties to work with, for sure.
Yeah, no, hey, thumbs up on that one. You nailed it. Absolutely. One more wine that I want to talk quickly about. It's, listen, I'm not a fan of Petit Verdot. Okay. To be honest, I'm not a guy who's going to source, like who's going to look for a PV. Every time that I taste the 100% PV, there's good wines, but it's not something who really attract me. And I'll use a phrase of one of my old collectors I used to build a cellar from in Alberta. Always told me, this is the filler grape. It's a filler grape. And I keep hearing his voice. But listen, it's my highest PV rated to date from BC. It's my favorite Petit Verdot that I've tasted in my years doing Carl's Wine Club and tasting Canadian wines. It's at the top. It's a 93 points Petit Verdot. It absolutely blew my socks off. Fantastic Petit Verdot. I need to know what was your secret on that one? Because Mira was like, Carl, I've never heard you talking about a Petit Verdot that way. I'm like, I don't know. There is a je ne sais quoi in that wine. It's not only very dark fruit, there's some blue fruit who makes it a little bit more approachable. Obviously, there's some power in there. It's a big boy wine, but not over the top. I just love the balance, and the tannins are there, but they're not ripping my face off. I mean, yeah, well done. This is my top PV to date. So tell me more.
Yeah, it's Petit Verdot is another one. Again, back to the days of the Soleil Rose. It's such a funny grape. It has that incredibly. It just has a lot. It has a lot of everything. It has a lot of color. It has a lot of acid at harvest. You know, TAs and pHs that are just completely out of whack. And it'll have a lot of sugar. So there's tannin, there's color, there's acid. There's just so much of everything. And again, if Cab Sauve's the last pick, Petit Verdot came in the day before. So it's another one that, rewards that patience. You have to let it get fully ripe. Otherwise the tannin's harsh, the acid's just way out of balance, way too high. So you really, really, really need to give it its time on the vine. So getting the pick date just right is huge. And then from there in the cellar, everything that we do is just to try to tame it. So it comes in ready for whatever direction you want to go. Petit Verdot is more than happy to take you there. But we're looking again for that kind of natural acidity, that grapefruit profile. The tannin's always going to be there. That's a hallmark of the grape, and I think that needs to be there. But you can also get into there's an incredibly pretty side of Petit Verdot. There's a floral, there's a rose petal.
Yeah, absolutely. Almost potpourri, right?
Yes. For me, that's actually a point so when it's on the skins in maceration in the ferment process, that's always a point. As soon as I smell that, I know we're ready to go to barrel. So it's kind of, there's those little tells with the grape, and I've worked with it for quite a few years now, where you just you got to kind of read it. We ferment it similar to the GSM. We ferment it a little bit cooler, trying to, not a lot. So say with Cab Sauv or Merlot, maybe we're at 28 degrees. With the Petit Verdot, maybe we're down around 26 degrees or something like that. We don't keep it on skins for as long as we would with the Merlot or Cab Sauv or Cab Franc.
It would be black.
Oh yeah, it's another one where it's just kind of like Viognier as well, actually, where it's really easy to go too far. You hang it too long, or you work with Petit Verdot, you work it too hard, where you just, ideally, we don't have to work back from anything. We always want to be working forwards in wines. So you're trying to limit upfront that extraction. And for me, with Petit Verdot, all the Nothing Sacred as well. For those wines, I'm an oak. Like I love oak. I'm a geek for barrels. I go down the rabbit hole pretty deep every single year. So the barrel program does play a lot into these wines, but it's not for the stamp of new oak. A lot of it is, in a new barrel, sourcing from specific forests, and the coopers that I like to work with who have a house style of promoting fruit and mouthfeel and texture, as opposed to that stamp of oak, that big vanilla kind of profile. So the Holy Moly the Petit Verdot is 50% new oak. Ideally, it's not it's going to be there, that sensation and that mouthfeel and that aromatically, but ideally it's not the driving factor. For me, you get kind of with new wood, you get a purity of the fruit. We go a fairly light toast on the Petit Verdot barrels as well. That really drives that mid palate and keeps everything kind of tight and focused. Because again, you can go so wide, so broad, you can go all over the place with Petit Verdot, but everything that we're doing from harvest date in the cellar and in the barrel program is to really kind of controlled chaos with that wine, of just kind of driving it and keeping it a little bit tight. And again, it's always going to have a lot of tannin. It's always going to have color and acidity. Your wine glass is going to be stained forever afterwards. But
I want to trick people at some point, throw a big party and serve only Petit Verdot, where everyone gets blue teeth after 5 minutes and start to take picture of people.
It's peeling the top lip off of, it's.
Hey, let's bring Mira in. Mira, come and join us. You might have a few things you want to bring to Evan before we let him go. So, yeah. I need to say, I knew that Mira was a big fan of the portfolio, Evan. So well done, man. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I'm just revisiting some of these. Are these all Blasted Church I have here, Carl? What do I have in my glasses?
Yeah, you have all Blasted Church. You have the Nothing Sacred NS. Yeah. You have CS with a Cap Sauv.
Okay.
You have the Viognier as well. So.
Okay, so I have to say, I am super surprised. They're all showing beautifully, and it's been a week open. That doesn't always happen. Like, we don't always get to say that, right? Sometimes they die. But especially the Viognier.
Yeah, I know. Hey, it's an absolute bomb today, the Viognier.
I'm not normally a huge fan of Viognier. Like, it's not like something that I necessarily seek out. But this one, holy cow. And especially today, after being open this long, I don't know. Maybe that means it needs to age a little longer to really hit its sweet spot. I don't know.
It is one of the whites that it will reward some time, certainly. And we, in the cellar we do work fairly reductively, and then going into bottle under screw cap. So always with you have to have the view that wines need to be drinkable on release, because a lot of wines that are sold are consumed immediately. But also kind of in the back of my mind, I want to make sure that the wines are set up for, it doesn't have to be the long haul, but 2, 3, 4, or 5 years, I think certainly is a nice benchmark where you can kind of get into some of those different flavor profiles and everything else. It's a well-aged bottle of wine is a special endeavor.
There's also the demographic, I believe, also. Yeah, you make a $24 wines like that VO. It's a little bit more for the mass. It's not the geeky one that you go at $32, $35, $36, where you make it a little bit more complex. This one, you want to hold it back as long as possible. And after that, like, it gives you more on the long run than the ready-to-drink wine with more of the entry-level or part of the portfolio.
Mm-hmm. Certainly.
Hey, Two things before we let you go, Evan, from my side. Mike would like to know again, what's in your glass tonight?
The Small Blessings, I'll call it a GSM for our purpose, but the Small Blessings MSG, the Mourvedre Grenache is, it was one of the darlings through the vintage, and it's still one of my darlings from the vintage now, which is always kind of an exciting one. Exciting when we see so many wines come through the cellar, and when it actually, in the bottle over the years now, it's holding up its end of the bargain quite nicely.
And I think with 300 cases made, and there was the last vintage produced, and it's not going to be any for the foreseeable future. So I think that our message tonight to our listener is stock up now, because soon enough it's going to be out. And unfortunately, we won't see it for a while. So it's time to stock up, Carl's Wine Club members. Just saying.
Yeah, and I'll leave you with a little love here from our members. Ron Yoneda says, always try to make it my last stop in the day. Such great view over Skaha Lake in the late afternoon. Sheila Talling says, Evan is the best. And Lee Thomas Baker is saying, tell him Lester says hi. So,
Oh, Momo. He's so Lee is also a winemaker. I met him at Brock University. He moved out to BC. He's back up in the county in Ontario now.
Whereabouts?
He was at Redtail, and now he is at Rose Hall.
Rose Hall. There you go. One of my absolute favorite winery, Dan Sullivan. They're awesome at Rose Hall Run. Yes. Oh my God. I did the Sauvignon Blanc review report last year. Rose Hall Run absolutely just crush everything else on their way. They make outstanding Chardonnay. The Saint Cindy absolutely freaking rock my world. I'm a big fan. So absolutely. Another one of my favorite wineries is Scotch and Chase in the county. Big fan. Big fan. So yeah, well, that's cool that you have some friends on the other side of the country. Mira, I think we should tell Evan that they have other Winnipeg people, other Manitoba people on the show earlier today.
Did you see?
Yeah, Nadia Senchuk was listening to the show, and she mentioned.
I think that was just me saying that the Ilya and Nadia Senchuk, they come from Winnipeg too, at Leaning Post in Ontario, and they always say they come from the winemaking mecca of Canada.
There's been some people when so Don and Elaine Triggs. Don Triggs is from about 45 minutes away from where I grew up.
There you go.
And then down in California, there's Steve Mathias. I think he's from Gimli. Curtis Colt in Vancouver, another Gimli boy. So there's we do travel a little bit, and obviously I pick up on any Manitoba. You always got to remember.
If you ever go to Niagara, make sure you stop at Leaning Post. It's in the Lincoln Lakeshore Appellation. In what's the little town there in Winona. And they're from Winnipeg as well. One of the best Niagara winery, absolutely off the chart. So hey, you've been with us for an hour already. So I'm sorry. I always said, 30 minutes, we should be fine, and it never works. But I hope
take that over and tell people the real deal. We're so grateful for your time, Evan, and all your sharing and the great stories. It's really been super interesting. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Cheers, guys.
Hey, thanks for being with us, Evan. I greatly appreciate your time, and we'll make sure that we bring some members your way during the summer.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Woo-hoo.
Thank you. Take care. Thanks a million, man.
Yeah, I mean, in the summer they have a pool. It's pretty cool. I've seen pictures of this in the summer. It looks pretty exciting. And they have a fun walk too. Wasn't he great? Oh my God, we're so lucky.
I mean, it's one of the best spots in the Okanagan. I mean, what an incredible view. The patio, the wine portfolio. I mean, everything. When you go to Blasted Church, I mean, you have a blast. Like it? Okay. Yeah, it was awesome.
Story, but if anyone's wondering why is it called Blasted Church, there's a church nearby in Okanagan Falls, like probably a 15-minute drive away. And the legend has it that about 100 years ago, a guy named Mr. Hatfield, who this wine is named after, this wine is called Hatfield's Fuse. Well, he decided the best way to move the church was to blast it. Blast it with a few sticks of dynamite. Everything would get kind of loose. All the nails would get loose, and then they'd be able to take it apart really easy and move it. And it worked. It worked. They moved it. They put it in Okanagan Falls, where it is to this day. And there's apparently, you can go there. There is apparently a sign outside this church that proudly proclaims this is the Blasted Church. And everyone is very, very proud to be a congregation member of the Blasted Church. So Blasted Church Winery has taken it to the next level. So all their labels, all their branding has some fun humor in there and some great art too.
There you go. So yeah, that's about it. I don't know. Do we want to go further down different things, or we're good to go?
Well, it's up to you. We covered all the wines. I mean, the only one we didn't touch on was Hatfield's Fuse, which is an awesome crowd pleaser of a white wine for 20
I mean,
bucks.
$20, $20. I mean, like it's like there's like seven kind of grapes in there, and like I mean, it's just fresh. I like when I tasted it for smell and taste, you feel the Gewürztraminer, you feel the Viognier, and everything in between. So yeah, very solid $20 wines. But I think that one thing that we haven't talked with Evan, and I should have, it's the Big Bang Theory. I mean,
Oh my God, yes.
I know. And it's the one thing that darn wine at $24, it's something that is, we don't see that very often anymore in the Okanagan. So an absolute rock star for that price. I mean, darn it. Like there's everything. It's Merlot Syrah dominant. Like 80% of the grapes are Merlot and Syrah. And yeah, there's a richness, there's a freshness, there's a length, there's a little bit of complexity. It's an absolute freaking blast to taste that wine. And I mean, I tried to trick you a couple times. And even when we did the blind tasting, that's the one that you rated it the highest.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, there's usually like at least 3 reasons why BC red wines don't make it under $25. Like they just don't hit the shelf under $25. And it's because, well, first of all, these varietals that we're talking about, Cab Sauv, Syrah, Petit Verdot, Merlot, like they are more pricey to produce. They take more attention, right? It's also because most like vineyards have to deal with high cost of vineyard land. Well, Blasted Church has been around for over 30 years. So I think they've got a bit of an advantage here that translates in what's in our glass.
Well, and there's also the fact that of the topography, right? Exactly. I mean, you can't like in Ontario when you put the harvester in the vineyard and then boom, they go and they just pass the machine through and it's all done. No, it's all hand harvested. Try to put a harvester in the vineyard by this Kahale. Come on, go for it.
Like I would say like probably at like 90% of BC wine, 80% at least is all 100% hand harvested, hand tended to, hand sorted, right? Whereas in Ontario, they have these huge parcels of vineyard land that are totally flat and they're just built for machines, which is good too. You know, it doesn't decrease the quality necessarily.
Not anymore. Like how precise and like the technology of built, like the machines are almost like, they said that these machines now, the newer model, like they are more precise than any human can be. So yeah, no, it's not a bad thing, but it's just much more cost effective. Just much more cost effective, right? So yeah, one of our listener right now, so I put a Big Bang Theory in all my order clubs, like in my club orders. It's an amazing, easy drinking wine. I mean, this is the perfect crowd pleaser. You want to BC red, taste people either as a reception wine or either as a late night wine, you know, like you already had 4 or 5 bottles and you don't want like to crack the big boys anymore because everyone's half bag. Well, you pull a bottle of Big Bang Theory and it's just do the trick. This is the Sutter Insurance.
Yeah, and it's such a fun wine in terms of labeling too. Like you bring that out and it's a talking piece, and a lot of the wines are, they're just fantastic. So I'm so glad we finally discovered Blasted Church. I mean, we've heard about it for a long time. We see how many wines they make. They make a ton of different wines and they're fun.
Yep.
And so now we know. We gotta.
Well, it's not only we know. It's now we appreciate the quality. Like I did not have that deep understanding of their portfolio, and like I thought it was just a fun winery. No. It's fun winery with serious wine. So that's how I like to define them from now on. And just the visit is worth it because of where they're located and the beautiful spots. So and they're one of the.
With 2 quick updates on events coming up in Ontario the week of August. August 24th, the Wednesday, Wine Wednesday. We're going to do a live show in Niagara at Stonebridge. I'm hearing that's getting confirmed still.
April the 24th, right? That's what you said?
Wednesday night.
Yeah. I mean, it's in the making now. So
we'll go live earlier that day than we usually do on Wine Wednesday so that Niagara, Ontario people can come by in person, and it's not like super late in the evening.
Exactly. So we're going to be at the conference on the Tuesday. We're going to invite a bunch of people from in the industry. I would love to see a big mingles between people from the industry and our members, right?
Yes.
So Ontario members, happy hour at Stonebridge in Niagara-on-the-Lake. They're in the Niagara River appellation, but yeah,
very close to Bellaterra. So frankly, we might be at Bellaterra right before that, or something like that.
It's very highly possible.
Yeah, and then we'll head to Stonebridge because we're featuring Stonebridge that week, so it works out really well. We'll do something live there. We might actually be at Stonebridge. Their viticulturists are Peter Gamble and Sperling,
yeah,
who have a connection here in BC.
Consultant winemakers.
Consultant winemakers, yeah, at Stonebridge, and we might be visiting with them earlier in the day too. So it'll be a very interesting trip. And if you can make it out to Niagara that week, we would love to connect with you and see you at these events. On the 25th is the epic international wine tasting, back vintages of Canadian wine with back vintages of iconic international wines. Do you have any updates on that? Is there any new wines that we didn't know about that will be included?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes.
I know a certain Chateau Yquem.
Yeah, so 1988 Chateau Yquem from Sauternes in Bordeaux. So it's confirmed. So if you ever have, first and foremost, if you ever had a Chateau Yquem, it should be one of the highlights of your wine drinking career. I mean, one of the top trophy wine in the world. Chateau Yquem is one of the nine Premier Cru Classé from Bordeaux. So one of the most iconic. You put Chateau Yquem on the same scale of Chateau Mouton Rothschild, Lafite Rothschild, Chateau Latour, Chateau Margaux, Chateau Yquem. So they're all the same. So, of course, Daryl Petrus is better. It's Merlot. I understand that. But yeah, so 1988 Chateau Yquem is going to be served at the dinner. So that's the only international one. No, not the dinner. At the tasting. At the tasting. Thank you. Oh my God, Mark.
We want to keep the focus on the wine here. Okay.
Yeah,
there will be
absolutely.
Food, for sure. We're not going to starve, but it's not a dinner. It's a wine tasting.
It's a wine tasting at the Vintage Conservatory in Toronto on King Street. So the Canadian wines confirmed is 2006 Stratus White, the 2013 Hidden Bench Chardonnay Tête de Cuvée, the 2014 Cave Spring CSV 24 Riesling. Also, the 2012 Leading Post. Oh, are you going to open it? Do it. Yeah. So while Mira's opening the first wine of the night is going to be served, I'll keep going on the red. 2012 Leading Post. 2012, yes, 12-year-old Pinot Noir from Laurie Vineyard. And on the St. David's bench. So Laurie 2012 Pinot Noir from Leading Post. We have 2012 Da Silva Legado Merlot. We have 2014 Summerhill Spadefoot Toad Syrah. We have 2014 Painted Rock Cabernet Franc, 2015, the wine of the year at Carl's Wine Club, the Riverstone Milestone. So that's the Canadian selection. Plus, this beautiful bottle that Mira's opening right now is going to be served.
See what labels are on it?
What
was never officially released, I do believe, right? This is their private collection.
Yeah, so this is from Benjamin Bridge in Nova Scotia, from the Gaspereau Valley. This is the Découpement Parcellaire 2017. It's a Blanc de Blanc, 100% Chardonnay. champagne method. So a very tiny production of what the winemaker told me that it was the highest quality wine that he has ever made, and this is the crown jewel of Benjamin Bridge production. So I am pretty darn excited about that bottle. So that's going to be the first wine. Our partner with this event, Marc Nadeau, owner of l'Académie du Vin in Toronto, is in the process of selecting one of the international bubbles that is going to be served beside that. We're going to have we're also going to have a magnum of white. I'm not sure exactly what it's going to be. Probably a white Rhone. We have a magnum of a Burgundy wines. I'm not sure exactly from which appellation, but it's all going to be rare stuff from Mark's private cellar. Yeah, I can't wait to see that. International selection will be confirmed by early next week. So, yeah.
Yes. Daryl, we will open it live, right? April 4th?
Yeah, April 4th. I'm going to have all of the 10 Canadian wines open that I'm going to go through every single wine. We'll have John Skinner is going to be stopping by to talk about his 14 painted rock Cab Franc. Ilya Sanchuk is going to be stopping by to talk about Leaning Post Laurie 2012. Who else confirmed? Ted Kane at Milestone, at Riverstone, is going to stop by and talk about the Milestone 15, the most prestigious one he has ever made. So Richard's going to be stopping by the live as well to talk about his 2012 Legato. So we have lined up a bunch of winemakers who's going to come to the live and talk about their wine, and we're going to taste them all just to give you a preview of that very, very special and unique tasting that we're doing in Toronto in April the 25th.
So I do feel like if you're local to the Okanagan, you need to stop by that night. Right? I think we need to have a few people over after. But yeah.
Oh, that's not a bad idea. That's not a bad idea.
I think so. This is very special.
That's not a bad idea.
June 15th is the Pan-Canadian Masterclass. You're going to hear more about this over the next little while. We do have more tickets. We thought we would be sold out instantly. Hester Creek has saved some more tickets for us. So we will have a few more released in the next little while. So keep an eye out for that. If you are hoping to come, send me a note and I will save you a spot. It is going to be epic. This is 12 wines and now it's turned into 13. It's hard with this guy to keep it to 12 or what have you, but 12 wines coast to coast, 13 wines coast to coast from Vancouver Island to Nova Scotia. And this time around, almost every one of the winemakers is going to come. Last time it was like half of them that flew from all over the place. It's looking like almost everyone is going to be there in person this time, winemaker wise, which is pretty incredible.
Yeah, we're bringing the Canadian wine industry together here in the south of the Okanagan in June. It's going to be absolutely incredible. We'll have the Bellaterra team, Lou and Marcel, coming in for 3-4 days. We have Ilya Sanchuk, who's flying, one of the most acclaimed and the rising star of winemaking in Ontario. He's going to be here spending 3-4 days with us. Keith Tyer from the county, from Prince Edward County, is going to be with us. Mr. Cab Franc himself, Brian Schmid, is coming over and going to spend Father's Day with us here in the Okanagan. So we have a bunch of rock star winemaker, winery owner who's coming over, and we're bringing the world of wine in Canada together. So it's pretty incredible. We're very excited. I just can't wait for that. So yeah.
Okay. Woo. Well, happy Wine Wednesday, y'all. I still have a teeny bit left in all my glasses. I will just go fix that. This is what, Bachelor in here?
Yeah. Just a tease, because right now, here, this is Blasted Church Week here at Carl's Wine Club. A very impressive lineup of Blasted Church. But our next winery feature is Thomas Batchelder, the absolute Chardonnay Pinot Noir Gamay master in Canada.
Not next week, but the week after.
Yeah, next week
Maybe
we're
do
taking
like
a break.
like a breather. I know
Yeah.
there's club movements, you know.
Yeah. We're giving everyone's wallet a break. And so we're going, and it's going to be free shipping across the country for $200 and more purchase for Bachelor. So I have two. Okay. Here, hint, wink, wink, hint. Okay, there's at least 295 points in that feature. At least 294. So more than half the pack is 94 and 95. Just saying.
Oh my goodness.
Just saying. So this is Thomas Bachelor in a nutshell. I mean, like, yeah, I've started to taste through the lineup, and it's just, yeah. 2021 is one of the most underrated. One of the most underrated vintage in Niagara, especially for Pinots. So,
yes. So this week, great value BC wine from $20 up to $40, and
nothing over 40. That's amazing.
It's really special. So fantastic value for BC wine. We have members who are taking a couple cases at a time, stocking up for the coming, Easter holidays, summer coming up, barbecue season. It's going to be perfect for that.
And breaking news. 2021 of the GSM was the last one, and it's going to be the last for multiple vintage.
Jeez, that was the last one. Okay, so that's the one we've got. Okay.
Yeah. So
send everyone a note about that one.
Yeah. So only 300 cases made. It was the last one made, and according to the winemaker, it's probably not going to be any for the next 5 years. So because none of these grapes in 2022, none of these grapes in 2023, none of these grapes in 2024, and add 2 more years to make the wines. So we're looking at 2026.
Jeez. Okay. And I don't know any other GSMs in BC other than Road 13 and
as Montreal has one.
Do they?
Maybe. I don't know. I'm not sure.
I think it's just Road 13 and Red Rooster.
Oh, that's true. True. Yeah.
I don't know if Red Rooster will keep making it, or if I don't know if anybody can make it as of this vintage. It will be the 2024 vintage will be non-existent in BC. So, yeah. Okay. Well, cheers, everyone. Hope you have a wonderful Wine Wednesday. It was so great to see everyone. I'm so excited now for all the things coming up.
And Mira, can we close that up with the link for the first? Yeah, if we can put the link.
If you wanted to see more, if you wanted to
all of my beautiful tasting notes, and according to Mira, there's more and more in my tasting notes, and it's creating a little bit more and more headache for Mira to format the whole thing. But we have here everything on these 9 wines, lots of information in that beautiful printed insert. So yeah.
Okay, there it is. And while that's loading in there, look at this. I have a quick little wine of the week video for you guys. Look at this.
21 Blasted Church Cabernet Sauvignon, my Vino wine of the week. With younger Cabernet Sauvignon, often decanting is in play. But if you don't have time, you need something a little quicker, I use my Vino. I decant my wine 1 glass at a time. With the quick pass in my Vino, this Cabernet Sauvignon becomes creamy, soft, and velvety. The tannin has quickly resolved into the structure. This is my Vino wine of the week.
A little lag there, but we have an amazing new team member in Quebec, actually, who is helping us out with some video editing. So I'm very excited to see where that can go. Cheers, guys.
Absolutely well done. So it's Blasted Church Week, Canadian wine lovers. So on that note, Mira Boucher.
Carl Boucher.
Thank you very much. It was a blast again. Blasted Church. A blast. Okay.
It was a riot. It was so irreverent. It was bad. Rotten.
Canadian wine lovers, Carl's Wine Club members. Thank you. See you next time.
Cheers.